Thanks to MPB for sponsoring today's video. On the outside, this might look like a totally normal Fujifilm X-T10, but taking the lens off of this camera is like the bad guy in a movie taking off his eye patch and revealing his secret cyborg eye, because this X-T10's legendary X-Trans2 sensor has been modified to see the light us humans cannot see. All normal cameras have a filter installed in front of the sensor that blocks all infrared light. Manufacturers do that to limit the range of light that gets to the sensor to the exact range of light our human eyeballs can see. They do that so the photos that come out of the camera look just like the way we saw it in real life. With a pretty involved procedure, that filter in front of the sensor can be removed, and what's left is a camera that can capture infrared light. And interesting things start to happen when you try to photograph what us humans cannot see. For a start, a lot of electronic devices actually use infrared light. For example, you can capture the infrared signals your TV remote is emitting, or see Apple's Face ID operating. But you can also see things you didn't necessarily want to see, like the truth about how much money you've spent on camera gear in the past year. Infrared photography is super new and exciting to me, so I was beyond stoked when I got my hands on this camera. And what better place to test it out than Japan? I quite like this photo, but with infrared photography, it's really hard to know what you're gonna get. Like, these windows, they turned out crazy red, and I have no idea why, especially because they're in the shade. Hold your horses right there. I'm Gary, the infrared critiquing cowboy, and I officially declare this photo to be It would have been really good if it was in focus, even the slightest. Well, in my defense, I feel like... Ow! God damn it, it's these windows again. Minus 10 points for Gryffindor. Okay, yeah, not gonna lie, this one's pretty good. Honestly, this dreamy infrared look just works so well in Japan. I've been interested in infrared photography for a really long time, and Japan definitely was the perfect playground to test this new camera. If you know Fuji cameras, you know that the X-T10 came a few years later than the OG models like the X-Pro 1. But it's the first in a lineup of extremely popular cameras, being followed by the X-T20 and X-T30. It's got the legendary X-Trans2 sensor with 16 megapixels and has the same extremely compact body design I also love my X-T30 for. I've said this before, it's honestly super difficult to convey just how small these cameras are in a video. Best I can do is tell you that it's about as long as 3/4 of a banana and not even half a banana tall. That's actually smaller than my Fujifilm X100VI, which is 0.823 bananas long. But of course, bananas vary significantly in size depending on, I don't know, banana genetics? Ignoring my outrageously relative measurements, the X-T10 does exactly what Fujifilm cameras do best: fit a buttload of physical controls on a tiny body. In general, you can't really go wrong with an X-T10, it's just a classic solid Fujifilm camera. But some person, the previous owner, thought, wow, that is a perfectly fine camera, would be a shame if someone were to, you know, do an entire bare bones disassembly of the camera, ripping out the sensor and doing a little bit of meddling in the filter stack. And now it makes fun colors that make all the other photographers on Instagram jealous, while simultaneously confusing all the non-photographers who think you have an undiagnosed case of severe color blindness and had a party with the Photoshop sliders. Okay, everything I just said was a gross oversimplification. It's not quite as easy as the camera makes fun colors, because there are some additional steps involved which you'll be pleased to know actually include the Photoshop slider party. The first and biggest hurdle why you don't see infrared photography that often is that the process of removing that filter from the filter stack in front of the sensor is very much non-trivial and usually pretty costly. First, you need an extra camera that you can dedicate for this process, but that's not necessarily the expensive part. I mean, you could have a spare camera laying around for this. No, I still need that. The expensive part is when you try to do the conversion on your own and end up throwing your sensor out of alignment, which pretty much leaves you with a camera that is about as good at being a bookmark than it is at being a camera. The alternative is to send the camera to a professional who does all the taking apart and sensor filter yoinking for you, though from what I've seen, that'll cost you around $500, and of course you need to supply a camera as well. That's pretty much what kept me from infrared photography for years, even though I was super intrigued by it, until I found out that you can just buy already infrared converted cameras on MPB, who just happened to be the sponsor of today's video. MPB is a platform that allows you to buy, sell and trade used photography gear. You don't have to deal with sketchy sellers or sketchy buyers. All items are tested by their professionals and individually photographed from all sides, so you know exactly what you're getting. And probably the best thing is that you get a warranty on the used gear you buy from them. When I saw this infrared converted X-T10 for $300, I instantly ordered it. Yeah, it might not be in the best cosmetic condition, but the fact that an infrared conversion alone costs around $500 and that doesn't include the camera just made this an absolute no-brainer and allowed me to explore this completely new side of photography. Another no-brainer is MPB's circular business. Because they buy from photographers like you and sell to photographers like you, they're not only able to offer amazing value, but also are a much more sustainable alternative compared to buying new. If you want to learn more, click the link down in the description to let them know I've sent you. One of the most important things we need to consider for infrared photography is which lens to use, because actually some lenses can cause significant problems when used for infrared. I'm gonna leave a link down in the description that has a huge list for all kinds of manufacturers detailing which lenses work and which don't for infrared photography. The lens I chose for this, the Fuji XC 35mm f2, was actually not on the list of tested lenses, but I chose it for one very important reason. I already owned it and didn't really have another lens I could try. And luckily it worked without any issues. Apart from the lens, the second thing we need to keep in mind when using a camera like this is that we need to limit the light that reaches the sensor. You might be thinking, didn't we just go like through a whole thing to allow more light to reach the sensor? Well, yes, but that means normal visible light as well as infrared light can now be captured by the sensor, and all we want is the infrared light. We're just gonna take the normal light and put it to the pile of images I still have to sort through and edit. It's gonna be a while until I'm gonna get to those. To get just the infrared light, we need a filter like this, the Hoya R72. You screw this filter in front of your lens and it blocks all normal visible light we want to get rid of and lets all the infrared light we want pass to the sensor. It's actually super interesting to hold it up to your eye. You can barely see anything through it because it only lets the infrared light through, which our boring human eyes can't see. There actually are a bunch of other filters out there that restrict different wavelengths and help you produce different looks, and I definitely want to experiment with those in the future, but the R72 is a great choice when first getting into infrared. Yeah, that's right, I didn't say infrared photography. This is now a video on infrared cookies. Okay, where did I put that bad boy? It's really hard to keep track of. Once you have an infrared camera, a lens that works, and the proper filters, the fun can finally begin. And you can create these abstract images that look like a dream you had after eating an insane amount of cotton candy. But yeah, it can be quite the investment. So if you're interested in trying infrared photography without having to buy a whole new camera and all that, go check out this video of mine where I try to use a completely unmodified camera for infrared photography and show everything you need to know about the post-processing of infrared images. I use my X100VI in that video, but it's actually possible to capture some infrared light with a ton of standard cameras. Okay, have a good one. Bye bye.